loudly.
So we had two different kinds of standards on site. Well, standards in general. Some of us had standards that were already put in place by our companies, like strict standards for pretty much any process you had on site, like safety standards, how to clean the bathroom, that sort of thing. Anything you'd have to do on site. And some of us instead had like lean meetings weekly, and we'd focus on a process that we would put together a standard for, and we thought that that was beneficial because the processes that needed standards, the standards were being put in place by the people who use them most, rather than just your higher up telling you this is the standard. We talked about specifically RFI processes, how the standards we have for that for my company were put in place by the engineers who are actually putting those together with the architects who were sending them to. So it was kind of a collaborative thing where we put together these standards. So pros and cons to both ways, but we felt that was most efficient.
Okay, well, what was the attitude of the people towards them on site?
Standards? Well, the standards we talked about were usually put in place by people who were working with them. So like standards for time were usually enforced by the foreman or given to the engineers by the foreman. And then the engineers worked off of that. So it was good to have standards on site because it made things more efficient.
Okay, great. You didn't see a lot of resistance to using it?
Not personally, no.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, let's go back here.
Okay, so we saw standards in several different forms, like anything from documentation, like the header on every document you send out to like the email signature you have. Also in safety and how you do the work, like I don't know, how you work concrete, that kind of thing. The attitude we saw is kind of like, it kind of correlates with the conveniency of the task. So if it's a more difficult standard to follow, they might have like a worse attitude for it because it means more work, time, attention. So I don't know, sometimes it's easier just to like have less stressful tasks to do. For the improvement, we said it was a little bit of both depending on their attitude towards it. So like if it was something that was easier, then there probably already was pre-consideration for it. Maybe there was a mistake or whatever, but you can also, I don't know, like plan for it more in advance so that there's more attention to it.
Okay. Okay, any questions? Very good. Okay, let's go back here.
So we kind of categorize the standards. So at the top we have like government standards, like OSHA regulations, stuff like that. And then from a GC standpoint, as you get down, you would have like owner standards, like they would expect a certain level of quality from you, and they might have their own systems that they like to use. And then it would be the company standards of the GC that they force everybody on every site to follow. And as far as forms go, like I know my company uses we have our own like site for RFIs, submittals, all that kind of stuff. And over this past summer, the owner we were working for actually had a separate site to do all that, so we had to work with them to kind of merge the two. And as far as the attitude employees take, as far as we've seen, it's pretty indifferent, and that a lot of the standards are pretty obvious and they're ready to follow them. And for improvement, we said that both of those things would definitely help.
Okay. Thank you.
We had a wide variety of projects, a lot of standards, a lot of the similar ones the other group talked about as far as RFI and documentation standards go. We also looked a lot at the ASCP 37 for temporary structures as the general contractor. Also, trend would be our lockout, tagout, obviously OSHA, and we all worked on hospitals, so we had some negative air pressure standards as well. And as far as who was responsible for these, I mean, really everyone, but as the general contractor, we had to make sure everyone was following the standards. And yeah, we had a giant database as far as our companies went to look up these standards and confirm that they're being met in the field.
What about improvement? See,
everyone was pretty accepting to all the standards. I mean, they're there to help. Definitely some improvement as far as lockout, tagout went along. I mean, as the project creeped towards the end, got more productivity out of that. And obviously, OSHA needs to be there for a reason. That kind of slows things down, but it's pretty short.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Okay.
So most of the stuff our group talked about was mostly to do with testing and quality control. So in my experience, concrete, I know that's said on here, but you have to test concrete every certain amount of yards. And I was doing big concrete pours on a bridge project, and we'd stop like every 30 minutes to test more concrete, and it just kind of became like sort of annoying at one point, just because there was so much being poured, and we had to stop like every once in a while, and we couldn't just keep going through the 800 cubic yard pours. So that was sort of the attitude about it was like, oh, this sucks, but like we have to get it done, because if something bad does happen, we're gonna have 800 cubic yards of concrete poured. It's useless. That's pretty much it.
Okay, so no, you didn't see the standards about how to organize those floors?
Not really. I mean, our project, we had our own sort of like, we had it organized in a way so the trucks were lined up and they were getting there right on time so we could pour it before it, we missed that window where the concrete was.
And so you got the right people on the bus to basically
Right.
knew how to do
Yeah,
that?
we had
And then you
people.
handed on to do it?
Yeah, we had people stationed to tell them when to roll in and stuff like that, because the access was kind of limited for that specific project.
Okay, so what do you see in the way of improvement?
Improvement, I guess the most you can do is make sure everything's sequenced right so that it, flows faster. And I think that's on management mostly to figure all that stuff out. I don't think it's necessarily a subcontractor's responsibility to do that.
Okay, so were you managing the subcontractor or the general?
The general.
The general.
Yeah, there's some self-performed.
So if there was a way to not stop the process and take the samples anyway,
Yeah.
that would be far more productive.
Right.
Okay, very good. And there is. Maintain every bit of quality associated with it. Okay. So anyway, very good. You do have to, for example, you take a slope test, or you take probably use mass boards, not a lot of air treatment, maybe on the top.
There's something.
Yeah, so, you're looking at a slump test, those can happen very quickly, and as long as you're within the tolerances that you're looking for, you can continue to pour without incident. Anyway, okay, very good. Up here.
In my group's experience, we saw a lot of standards related to safety as well as documentation. Most of these were in the form of word of mouth, so just something that the company's kind of been doing, a process that they've been doing, and kind of just passed down project to project. Attitude of the employees, like the employees working on like the documentation, they've kind of been doing it the same way forever, so they're pretty open to the standards. But the subcontractors, however, we noticed that you kind of have to like do favors to like get them to like get into like a new process or show them that like the new process is effective. So it's definitely kind of a battle with subcontractors sometimes, getting them to implement your company's standards when they're used to their own company's standards. As far as improvement goes, I think there's a lot of room for improvement on these. Like I said, it's kind of a battle with the subcontractors. So I mean, maybe if there could be like an industry-wide standard, maybe that would make the process better.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments on that? It was interesting when we have a large advisory council where we bring in leaders of a wide variety of contracting organizations and engineering into the department to give us advice on things that we're doing. And we discussed with them the standards. And Bechtel, for example, said, we have the standards. Our challenge right now is to get our people to use the standards. Okay, so lots of opportunity there, I think, for continued improvement. beyond the traditional limits that we currently have in concrete and probably also safety. Okay, I want to go now into more of the relationship development aspects. Okay. This was a statement that was made by the president and chief operating officer of Boeing as they began to implement standards and were soliciting input from their suppliers and subcontractors. We want to do this right. We want to get the best benefit of it. And we know that in order to do that, we have to engage you in developing what the standards are we're going to use. Okay? So this is what he said to that large group of suppliers that he was addressing. He said, predictability, these are the keys to a great relationship with both. If you want to have a great relationship, you want to get more work with us, you've got to help us get more work from our clients. We got to get together and get that to happen, okay? And so these are the keys to a great relationship with us. Predictability. Each always does what he says he's going to do. Sticking to plans. Why? It enables others to plan with a high degree of confidence in your future actions and performance. Now think about that as you're a manager and trying to get the things done that we just talked about, okay? If you make and keep commitments, you demonstrate that you're willing to do so, okay? I'm going to do something for you. I want you to do something for me. And you make and you keep that commitment, okay? A real sense of partnership, a genuine stake in each other's success. Mentioned several times was, hey, we want to do some more work together, right? Okay? Tie up that success together. Get people to recognize that, hey, this is a long-term thing. We're not just a one-night stand here. We're going on to better things together, okay? And we're going to do this by each of us looking to the needs of the other. Okay, you see the relationship developing there? Okay, expectation of continual improvement. Now here's an area where we have some catching up and catching on to do as an industry, okay? That there is opportunity for continual improvement and that constant willingness to not only embrace change, new ideas, insights, but insist on having them. That's an area where we need to learn and grow, okay? As a rule of thumb, about 5% of your time as a manager and the 5% of the time of everybody else on the team ought to be spent thinking about how to improve what we're doing. Okay, it's not a full-time job, you got to execute the work, right? But we ought to pause from time to time and think about how it's going relative to our vision of how it ought to go or it could be going. And think about how to improve things, okay? If you want a relationship, you're looking at labor relations here, okay? We're all laboring on the project at whatever level we're at. It's not just a laborer, if you will, that's involved here. These are the keys to a great relationship. That make sense? Okay, I want you to consider there are primary sources that are more motivating to others than the character attributes that we traditionally prize in excellent engineering and construction, or management in general. The traditional aspects are hard work, dependability, sobriety, firmness, imagination, patience, courage, loyalty, discriminating thinking, intelligence, persistence, ingenuity, dedication, reliability, courage, courtesy, humor, sensitivity, determination, tact, and so on. Okay? Now, I want you to consider that those very attributes that we normally, traditionally consider, okay, that have value for sure, but these are the same attributes required to be a successful athlete, artist, soldier, bank robber, musician, international jewel thief, scholar, hitman, spy, teacher, dancer, author, politician, minister, smuggler, conman, general, explorer, chef, and on and on and on, right? Okay? Same attributes. So some things differentiating these, okay, that's not mentioned in those things up above, right? Some morality aspects, okay? Some human motivators that are much more powerful in motivating people than these alone. Okay? Okay, so sources of power to motivate people. We have mutual benefit. Here we have expectation and realization from improvement that hits the bottom line. Okay? That is a strong motivator. Trust in each other's intent, competency, resources, and authority. Okay, now think about that. You've got to trust each other's intent. They've got to be competent. They have to have the resources and the authority to use them, right? In order to be trusted. Any question about that? Okay? With the current levels of low trust, everything takes longer and costs more. It's not all low trust. There are some very excellent relationships that exist in the industry, okay? And we get a lot from those relationships. Clients that come back to us again and again, subcontractors that give us a competitive edge because it's cheaper to work for us, right? Because we have projects that are well managed and we don't beat them down after the fact. They make money when they work for us, right? And so they give us a competitive edge when they bid us. And we get the competitive edge going into the client. Okay, a recent, our senior manager in an industry leading EPC, Red Cruz, has said to me, he said, we don't trust our clients or our suppliers and they don't trust us. We don't even trust each other. Okay, so unity. This is based on trust, but it's an active thing. Because of the trust, we can sit down together and come to a unified approach in how we're going to proceed. How we can all be successful, okay? This is the derivation of and winning the minds and the hearts to align goals in the process to achieve it. Low levels of unity lead to cynicism and cordial hypocrisy, to fake being a team player when in fact undercurrents of being marginalized squander vast human resources. This is usually described as a lack of team alignment. Okay? And we see all different levels of this sort of thing occurring, from highly unified, aligned project teams, proceeding very well, making and keeping commitments because each individual makes and keeps commitments, which enables the whole commitment to be made, to those that do not. Okay, now we're going to go into the specific aspects, and I like to call it what it is, love. It's really, in the business sense, it's sincere caring, that is personally shouldering safety, environmental and social responsibility. If one doesn't really care about what really matters, it will be discovered and eventually for the form of fraud that it is, because everybody knows they should sincerely care, right? So if you play like you are and you don't really, that's fraud, is it not? Okay, so you've got to really care. Any platform other than force for motivating others is dependent on it. The higher levels of performance excellence always are achieved and sustained by it. Okay, gratitude is the next one. This is a proper balance in the worth of your own value and effort with that of others. It's a healthy recognition of and thankfulness for, respect for your dependence on others. Greed is the alternative, which takes no pleasure in what one has, only in what one has more than others. Okay? These are the root human motivators. Okay? And there are others which we will, well, let me do this. I got 2 minutes left, 1 minute left. Love, this term, and too often the emotion is not businesslike. What an indictment. What's in it for me attitude and greed are both businesslike and very prevalent in our modern society and industry. A prominent professor of one of our favorite MBA schools shocked the world by claiming greed is a good thing. Well, the world has had quite enough of that philosophy and its fruits. There exists here every intent to shock the reader into reconsideration that nobleness is what builds lasting greatness in countries and companies and families and individuals, and that love as a foundation element always has been, recognized or not. That said, the form of love is described and different from other foundational character traits of motivation. Okay, so anyway, my 2 bits, if you will. Take a look at that and say, you know, do I really care about others? You need to look at that honestly in the mirror. Okay, or is it all about me? Okay, we'll start there again on Wednesday.
Oh, I think